You wake up when your body is ready. No alarm, no schedule, nowhere you need to be. You stretch and ask one question: what should I do today? For roughly 300,000 years, that wasn't hypothetical. It was every single morning. Modern humans spend about 90,000 hours of their lives working, roughly a third of your waking existence. For almost all of human history, jobs, wages, and bosses didn't exist at all. So what did people actually do? Between 1963 and 1965, anthropologist Richard Lee tracked the Jew/Hoansi people of Botswana and found adults spent about 17 hours a week acquiring food. The Hadza of Tanzania, the Aché of Paraguay, the Martu of Australia, completely different continents, same result: 15 to 20 hours a week spent on survival. You probably work twice that. Skeletons back this up. When archaeologists compare hunter-gatherer bones to early farmers, farmers were shorter, riddled with cavities from grain-heavy diets, and showed arthritis from repetitive labor. Hunter-gatherer skeletons were taller, stronger, with healthier teeth. Less physical labor, not more. Then there's evidence that shouldn't exist if survival was a constant struggle: art. Chauvet Cave in France, discovered in 1994, holds paintings roughly 30,000 years old. Horses and lions rendered with shading and movement, requiring hours of skilled work by firelight for no survival reason at all. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, tiny shell beads were hand-drilled purely to be worn as jewelry, some requiring a long round trip just to collect the raw shells. In Germany, a 40,000-year-old flute carved from a vulture bone shows someone understood pitch and finger spacing. This is what people did with their extra time. They made things beautiful. A typical day: wake near a smoldering fire, eat leftovers, talk. A small group might hunt or gather, but not every day, only when supplies ran low. Otherwise, people repaired tools, wove baskets, or scraped hides, work with no clock and no supervisor, done because competence earned respect. Humans are persistence hunters, tracking prey at a steady jog for hours in open heat until it overheats and collapses. We're one of the only species that can regulate body temperature well enough through sweat to outlast an animal built to outrun us. A hunt might take 3 to 6 hours, including travel, and by early afternoon, the productive part of the day was essentially over. Anthropologist James Sussman documented that the Jew Hoansi spend roughly 6 hours a day in pure social time, talking, grooming each other, playing with children, because in a world without money, police, or contracts, your survival depends entirely on your relationships. At night, something shifted. Polly Weissner's 2014 study of recorded Jew/Hoansi conversation found daytime talk was almost entirely practical, but 81% of nighttime conversation around the fire turned to myth, jokes, and stories about the past. Arguably the birthplace of human culture itself, the point where gods, ancestors, and imagined futures could finally be discussed once the day's survival was handled. Sleep wasn't one block either. Historical records and 1990s sleep research describe two segmented phases, with a quiet, wakeful hour of reflection in between. So a full day looked like this: 4 to 6 hours on food or tools, roughly 6 hours of pure social connection, 8 hours of sleep across 2 phases, and the rest spent simply existing, resting, watching, being. Then, about 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent, agriculture arrived and it became a trap. Once people began planting wheat and barley and domesticating animals, they could feed more mouths. But more mouths meant more farming was required, with no way back to the old rhythm. The skeletal record is unambiguous. Early farmers worked harder, ate worse, and died younger than the hunter-gatherers before them. But populations kept growing, specialists emerged: toolmakers, priests, soldiers, and eventually, jobs. You now spend 90,000 hours of your life working. Your ancestors spent a fraction of that. You call a 2 a.m. wake-up insomnia. They used that hour to reflect. You chase achievements a modern system invented. They woke up each morning already enough, with nothing to prove. We're not a different species. We just live so differently from how humans lived for 99% of our existence that we might as well be. Would you have survived on 17 hours of work a week, or gone stir-crazy without a job to define you? Let me know in the comments.